On the Talkback Show, on the radio, or whatever audiovisual device you choose to use. Welcome to the GBC Podcast, where we talk about the Packers and our hometown of Green Bay. We are the official podcast of the Lot 1 tailgate party, which is at Lambeau Field every home game. This is episode 83, created September 17th, 2024. I'm John. I'm in Appleton, Wisconsin. Along with me, Jeff in Minnesota and Neil on the East Coast. Say hello, gentlemen, and tell us what you're drinking.
Hello, everyone. Matt LaFleur had advanced protocols in his game planning against the Colts, and so I'm drinking an Advanced Protocols Cryo Hazy IPA.
All right, I went all out tonight. Canada Dry, ginger ale, and lemonade.
All right. Jeff is going for the rough stuff tonight. Jeff, this has nothing to do with you. I am drinking a Harp Lager this week, but it's because this is a beer that was, again, left over at the tailgate party. So we'll kind of make a theme. If you leave your beer behind at the Lot 1 tailgate party, it will get featured on the GBC Podcast. You can find us on YouTube and Twitter at Green Bay Chat and Facebook at the GBC Podcast, Green Bay Chat. And just the audio is available on Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify by searching for Green Bay Chat. Well, it was week 2. It was the home opener, Packers-Colts. We'll talk about it. And a little bit of temperature, possibly, Neil, a weather report for week 3 as we go to Nashville. And we're going to talk about tailgating as it happened in Green Bay this weekend again for that home opener. We'll get some highlights from around the league, but the highlight that matters to us is a 16-10 Packer victory over the Indianapolis Colts. Week 2, it's the home opener in Green Bay. I'm surprised that we aren't just covered in sunburn, Neil, because we cooked inside that stadium on Sunday.
And surprised that we don't still have heat stroke from that as well. But the players made that a glorious day. And Matt LaFleur had a game plan that set the Packers up for victory. And obviously the big top line numbers are the fact that we had 261 rushing yards, that Jacobs had 151 rushing yards. But outside of Jacobs, our other runners had 110 rushing yards as well. We had 53 total rushes in that game. And in the first quarter alone, we had 164 rushing yards. We are on a pace for 656 rushing yards in that game. But despite all of that, I think the key to that game plan was Malik Willis and the preparation for Malik Willis, because there's so many times when it was Malik Willis extending drives, making plays that caused drives to continue. And just looking at his numbers, he was obviously efficient at that 12 of 14 for 122 yards, 8.7 yards per attempt, a touchdown, 82.5 QBR, 126, also 41 rushing yards. But it was where he made those plays that made the big difference. And it seemed to be that it was always converting in those big moments.
12 of 14, Neil, but 13 of those 14 passes came after the first touchdown, after the Packers had 10 points on the board. But you're absolutely right. I think that it's not necessarily just game planning on Green Bay's part, but it was game preparation on Indianapolis's part. They didn't know what to prepare for. There literally was no game film of Malik Willis in a Packer uniform. They had seen him, maybe once or twice in Tennessee, but what was he going to do in Green Bay? And they just simply had no idea. And I think that I really liked how Green Bay committed to the run. I think back to the Mike Sherman days when Mike Sherman would get a play that would work and he would run it probably 2-3 times and it would work and it would work and it would work. And instead of running it until it didn't work, it would be like you would say, okay, we need to surprise them now and come up with something different, maybe play into where they are playing and we'll see if we can catch them off guard. And it wouldn't work. And then they would never go back to what they were doing. So what happened on Sunday was jubilation compared to the frustration of, 20 years ago in the Mike Sherman era. So that commitment to run was enormous on Sunday.
But there was a big disparity between how we ran in that first half and how we ran in that second half of the game. And I would argue that he maybe did push that same button a few too many times without moving the play calling around in the second half. Or alternatively, I think you can state that Indianapolis made adjustments at halftime. And one way of stating it is that we didn't make sufficient adjustments, which is why our running game was so much less efficient. And specifically in the third quarter, we had -7 rushing yards in the third quarter. We had only 24 rushing yards in that entire second half. But you could also say it was Matt LaFleur committing to a Mike Holmgren-esque game plan of getting a lead and then just trying to kill the clock the entire rest of the game. And I think that's the positive spin of what was going on here.
With Malik Willis, was he game managing or was he actually pretty in control? What do you think, Neil?
I think that you look at where Malik Willis had opportunities to make play and the plays he made, he was clearly in control of that game. And I looked through all of his passing completions. I looked through all of his plays on third downs. And to me, you look at those plays where he has a chance to make a conversion, third down and less than 10 yards to go for the first down. On those third and less than 10, he was 6 of 7 with 5 first downs. And then also on a 3rd and 5, he ran for 19 yards to get a 6th first down that he converted by his legs or by his arm. That is not somebody who's game managing. That is somebody who is taking control in the moment.
The other thing that I noticed, and I totally agree. I think he was not game managing. He was throwing the ball downfield as well. So his average yards per pass, 8.7. So he was throwing it down the field. He was extremely efficient. He wasn't just throwing screen passes and passes to the line of scrimmage.
It wasn't a Caleb Williams 3.0 yards per attempt. That's what you're saying?
You're picking up what I was laying down there, Neil. Yes.
But it wasn't just Malik Willis using his feet or running the plays that were called for him. The running game all the way across the board. Josh Jacobs, obviously, with a great day, but we have a couple of receivers that can run as well in Jaden Reed and Bo Melton, and they grabbed the ball as well and moved it upfield.
Who wasn't featured here was Christian Watson. No jet sweeps for him this game, but Jaden Reed, very, very impressive. He 2 runs, but each time he touched the ball, he went far.
But you know what Christian Watson did do? He had critical blocks on a number of those plays. Christian Watson was spectacular as a blocker in addition to Tucker Kraft. And when you've got guys who are supposed to only catch the ball in theory, and they're making such significant contributions to the running game, that's going to give you opportunities to have a day like the day we had.
And not just Watson as a receiver with devastating downfield blocking. Tucker Kraft had a good day downfield, Jeff, as well.
Absolutely, he did, and he was named the offensive lineman of the game by one Larry McCarron. He knows something about offensive linemen. Hearing that, he laughed, and it was true. I mean, they work together as a unit. Tucker Kraft, he can catch passes, but you know what? He can really block too.
You know who else can block? Zach Tom and Sean Ryan. It was glorious watching those guys in the running game. And of course, Elgton Jenkins, I think, has sort of been forgotten in the last few years, even though he is our best offensive lineman. And he was obviously all over the place as far as the running game was concerned.
Certainly, the line of scrimmage, Neil, Packers had a little bit more control on the line this week than they did last week in Philadelphia. Turf conditions seemingly better this week in Green Bay. But that offensive line working as a unit, we didn't see anybody totally out of position like we did on Josh Myers a couple of plays last week. And I think in general, Josh, despite maybe some tummy issues, had a good game.
And with classic highlights of a few of the linemen shouting at their shoes as well.
And the offensive line was not just great as far as moving the ball on the ground, but they were also superb in the passing game. And Zach Tom specifically has 0 pressures that he has allowed on the quarterback all season. The Packers have the 3rd lowest pressure percentage in the NFL this year, and they have the 4th longest time until the quarterback feels pressure on the year. So these linemen are performing in the running game and in the passing game.
And Sean Ryan did get the start on Sunday. He had 50 snaps. Interestingly, he was rotating with Jordan Morgan. Jordan Morgan came in, got 20 snaps, but I believe it was the 3rd quarter that he was knocked out of the game with a shoulder injury. All they told us on the scoreboard was Jordan Morgan out, shoulder, and a quick look online. There is no update on his shoulder injury. So as far as interior lineman goes, Jacob Monk is the next man up there.
And he did get to play some on special teams, so he's been on the field. I want to go back to one other thing about Malik Willis. One of the things that he did that was well as far as pushing the game forward were situations where we just needed to get yards, where the first down wasn't necessarily a thing, where we needed to advance. In the fourth quarter, the Packers hit a situation where they were at 2nd and 11, and he had a 6-yard pass to Musgrave and then a 7-yard pass to Wicks to get that first down over consecutive plays. And similarly, we had a situation where it was a 2nd and 15 at the Indianapolis 33 in the third quarter, gets a pass to Wicks that doesn't get the first down, but moves us closer, that allows us to make that field goal in the third quarter. There was a sense of moment that Malik Willis had, that he knew that he didn't always have to get the first down. He didn't need to make that big chunk of yards, because if you go after it and miss, well, then you're in a much more difficult situation. When you needed to get smaller chunks, he was making the smaller chunks. He was on top of his game in every way.
And Jeff, I know Dontavian Wicks probably didn't put up a lot of points for your fantasy football team. Neither did Romeo Doubs or Jaden Reed, but what they did do was solid. I mean, a 14-yard touchdown reception for Wicks, and he's got 3 total catches for 26 yards. In the perspective of how much Malik Willis threw the ball, it's pretty significant, and then Romeo Doubs with 3 catches for 62 yards. He had the long for 39. And I think the other thing I like about this is the ball is spread out pretty well as well. 6 different receivers for Malik Willis on 14 passes.
All right, efficient, but again, not scared or not intimidated by throwing the ball downfield. It wasn't this dink and dunk. He chose his spots, and he threw with efficiency, and he threw well. Packers were 10 of 17 on third down, which is pretty good. And so that was, to Neil's point, there was this efficiency. There was this, not game management for being just conservative, but just being efficient with moving the ball down the field and chewing up the clock on offense and keeping their defense on the field.
And on Saturday, I was curious about Malik Willis's draft measurables. I had to go look him up, trying to see, and he didn't run in the combine 3 years ago. There's only rumors that he at one point ran a 4.340, but the one stat I did find about Malik Willis that made me feel good going into this game, his Wonderlic score was a 32. So for him to be able to run this Packer offense, I wasn't worried about it. And Jeff, where you talk about being out there with a purpose, I think that he certainly was not going to try to be the hero. He knew, run the offense that's called and do what the coaches are trusting you to do. And he did exactly that on Sunday.
And this was critical in that second half, because he was 8 of 9 for 97 yards in the second half. In the second half, Jacobs had 12 rushes for only 23 yards. So we needed other people to take the ball away so Indianapolis could not have the long drives. And that was really a theme on a day that was extremely hot, that you did not want your defense on the field for a long time. And guess what? The Packers offense was on the field for 40 minutes and 11 seconds. The Colts were on for under 20 minutes, 19:49. And that's a way to keep your defense fresh enough to hold the opponents to only 10 points.
But let's talk about that defense, because going into this game, we said, what's going to happen for Green Bay to win? And it's that we have to get the defense that we have been promised. 3 turnovers in this game. And Xavier McKinney, again, just literally playing center field, just says, I'm just going to stand here and let this ball drop into my gut and see what I can do with it for the second week in a row. So he is, Neil, on pace for 17 interceptions this year.
Well, the team in general, right? They already have 5 interceptions in 2 games. And last year, the entire year, they only had 7 interceptions. Good start.
But the other thing about those D-backs is that they were making plays not just for interceptions. They were making great coverage on the Colts receivers. Anthony Richardson was 17 of 34, 204 yards being the one downside of that. But we had 7 passes defended by our defenders, and there wasn't a single player that had more than one. Bullard, McDuffie, McKinney, Jair, Evan Williams, Valentine, and Eric Wilson, all with passes defended. There were plays all across that back of that defense that were stopping Indianapolis from moving downfield.
Yeah, Eric Wilson had a great game. When a guy wearing number 45 is out on the field and he's doing things, it's a good day for him. That's one of those numbers that, the low man on the totem pole kind of gets. But Eric Wilson has been wearing that number with pride, and he had a great game on Sunday.
Well, and he was efficient. He didn't play that many snaps, but
right.
Man, when he was out there,
he made it count, didn't he? Yeah.
So the downside of the defense is that they played a lot more in that second half. Now, we still had a time of possession advantage in the second half, but the Colts did get 258 yards in the second half to our only 121. And it was partly because we had a couple of 3-and-outs, although we also had these sustained drives. But the fact of the matter is that our inefficiency on offense definitely exposed our defense in the second half. And going back to that weather situation, out with the sun baking on you in that game, it was the sort of thing that was too hot to drink beer almost. My brother actually didn't have beers during the game because it was that hot. The Packers concessions sold out of their water, but plenty of beer there's left over.
Neil, the other thing about being in the stadium, and I don't know how well it showed up on television, but it's that the proverbial eye test and watching Anthony Richardson. He really did seem skittish. So the defense not only played well, but they had him guessing, and you could tell, and his passes were not precise. He was off on quite a few of his targets, which really saved some of the plays, because I can think of two where Packer defenders may have been out of position on, but Richardson just couldn't seal the deal on the passes. And that is a credit to A, good pass rush, and B, the guys downfield just, for the most part, being in the right spot or taking away a lot of those passing lanes.
And when he did get a pass off, even though he's only sacked once, we were benefited by a couple drops by those Indy receivers as well, which worked to our advantage. But I think it was just because, he had happy feet back there and the ball was coming out and the receivers maybe weren't expecting it.
Moving to the front of the defense, however, the defensive line and the linebackers did a good job of containing Anthony Richardson. He had 4 rushes for 37 yards, but he didn't have any of these huge plays that could have devastated a defense. And we made contributions. I would say we don't yet see that full power of the Death Star, of the Jeff Hafley defense. But Wyatt had a sack. Wyatt had 2 tackles for loss, along with McKinney and Lucas Van Ness having tackles for loss. And there were some big plays that were made on third down, and Lucas Van Ness's tackle for loss was one of those huge ones.
And Devontae Wyatt, another guy passing the eye test, looking strong out there, Neil, like the numbers that you just presented. But of the linebackers, Edgerrin Cooper, Tyron Hopper are coming on strong as rookies. And unfortunately, Quay Walker is just not doing well. He's struggling. And I don't know, is this because it's a new defense for him? A guy who was a first-round draft pick in his 3rd year. This is a guy that they really had high hopes for being solid in the middle linebacker position. And it's just not happening yet.
That's something that's certainly disconcerting. Andy Herman had him as our lowest graded defender by far. And that's the eye test, but he goes through every play individually. And there's just something wrong right now. And hopefully he's going to figure it out. But this is the weakest part of our defense right now, is Quay Walker.
Because he's out of position so much. That's the weird thing. I mean, he's like a yard or two out of position, or he's just not taking the right angle, or it's just, you're right, he's a 3rd-year player. So you'd think, okay, he's going to have this down. But you're right. Maybe it's because it's a new defensive scheme. I don't know.
Oh, by the way, Jeff, Quay Walker led the team with 6 tackles. So figure that one out.
He's fast. How's that? He's fast.
It speaks to the amount of rotation that we had on our defense. And it was clear that our game planning was very different compared to against the Eagles in Sao Paulo, where we had players playing 90 plays plus special teams. There was far more rotation. Our top line players did not play very much on special teams, but looking at players on the defensive front, Gary led with 37 plays out of 56 total. And there was rotation across that. Valentine, 32, Stokes, 24, KGB 23. There was a lot of rotation all the way throughout that defense that allowed us to have contributions from players throughout the roster. And that certainly is going to contribute to only 6 tackles as the leader.
One other bright spot on the field, though, Jeff, he gets a little bit of playing time. He's the Narv dog, Braden Narvison, 3 for 4 on the day. How are those asshats looking, Jeff?
Well, you know who sort of the unsung hero is? It's Daniel Whelan. Yes. Indeed.
That 59-yard punt, Jeff, came at us. Neil, were you impressed by that 59-yard punt? I was up at the observation deck at that time, and I'm pretty sure I looked up at the ball coming downfield. It had hang time, it had distance, it had tight spiral, and 59 yards is the official distance. He was still 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage on top of that as well. He booted the hell out of that punt.
Each of his 3 kicks were very important and instrumental. Like when he needed that huge 59-yarder, like you said, but then also pinning him with that last kick, right? I mean, putting it down on the 5-yard line. Come on, that is perfect. because as it turns out, if they would have been, 15, 20 yards closer, there might have been problems. So the Narv dog was efficient. He did hit 3 field goals, and that extra point wasn't so crisp, but he did miss one that really would have pretty much put the game away, Ben, that dagger, right?
He powered that through, though, because someone got a hand on it, didn't they? I thought there was a hand that got on that one that didn't look as good, or maybe I mistook that one, but yeah, you're right. Either way, he scored the point.
He did.
Something else interesting about our game on Sunday, and I have a book in my possession from the Packers Media Guide on page 44. We have now on record one of the hottest games played at Lambeau Field. Interesting note about this. In the stadium, just after kickoff, Bill Jarts announced, and they put it on the scoreboard, the kickoff temperature was 83 degrees. But Jeff, you're saying the dope sheet is recording it somewhere a little bit higher.
It says it's 85, which officially would make it tied for the second warmest game at Lambeau Field in history, or history since 1959.
Well, that other 85-degree game, though, was not at Lambeau Field. That game in 1978 against the New Orleans Saints was in Milwaukee, so it would be the second warmest at Lambeau. The hottest game, that 89-degree game, September 24th, 2017, that Bengals game just 7 years ago now, where Green Bay came away with a 27-24 victory. But like I said, 83, even at 83, there's 2 games in Green Bay. One of them from 1976. I don't think we remember that 49ers game. But in 2002, a September matchup, 83 degrees against the Atlanta Falcons, also coming away with a win, 37-34 in overtime on that one. So in the heat at home is okay for Green Bay.
In the heat at home for the team, certainly the fans were definitely wilting out there. And it was not just the temperature, it was the fact that the sun was relentless throughout the entire game, and there was very little wind. Good for the asshats, I guess, but the absence of wind meant that people were absolutely baking out there.
And Jeff, do we have a weather forecast for Sunday in Nashville?
Hot. Damn hot.
Any chance of clouds, though?
A little bit. I think the last that I saw, Saturday, is actually going to be the hotter day of the two, where we might even see 90 degrees and sunny on Saturday. We might get a little bit of a break on Sunday with some cloud cover, possibly 89 degrees for the high temperature during the day. Again, the question is, what's the temperature at kickoff? What's the temperature when they record it? Do you know there are 2 road games where the temperatures were over 100 degrees in Packers history? There was the 2003 game in Arizona where it was 102 degrees.
My brother was at that game.
He was, and he did not help the team at all because Green Bay took the loss there 20-13. The other one at San Diego, September 24th, 1978, part of that vaunted 1978 Packers team. They beat Air Coryell there 24-3 in 102 degrees. So San Diego there, 102 degrees, plus they were in that Freezer Bowl game, right, in Cincinnati as well. So they get the extremes there, just like Green Bay kind of does too.
John, if the temperature is in fact 89 degrees on Sunday, where's that going to rank?
I'm glad you asked, Jeff, because I have it in a book. It would be the tied for 6th overall, another 89-degree road game, September of 1981 at the Los Angeles Rams, a game that the Packers lost. Interestingly enough, there are 3 games at 88 degrees, all of them in October in Tampa.
NFC North at its finest.
Well, it's going to be hot, but a bigger number is 800.
Yeah.
800 what?
800 wins.
Yes.
The first team to make it to 800 wins. I saw this stat online as well. When the Packers got their 700th win, Chicago had 732 wins. And I believe they're now 7 away from 800 while the Packers hit 800. Outpacing them by roughly 40 wins in the last 100 games is pretty impressive. And with wins, something we never lose is a tailgate party. And the Lot 1 tailgate party was in spectacular fashion. On Sunday, the parking lot opened at 8 a.m. And yeah, it was warm at 8 a.m. as well. But we had a great crowd. There was a lot of blue, Neil. Did you notice a lot of blue running around on Sunday, Colts fans?
I did not, actually. I thought there was less blue than I've seen for a lot of different games, especially for Indianapolis being so close. I figured at that distance, there had been a lot. And there were definitely some people. I saw people I went to the pro shop on Saturday. There was a Colts fan wearing a cheese head. And then he noted that, well, it's blue cheese that's better. But I was out at the Stadium View the night before, and yeah, there were Colts fans there, but it wasn't an overwhelming presence. It certainly wasn't like a Chicago or Minnesota or Detroit game as far as the number of fans, even though it's about the same distance away.
I feel like the Colts fans that did come through on Sunday to Lot 1 were there. A lot of them were there for the first time, and they had a great time. We like to be very welcoming in the Lot 1 tailgate party, which brings up also on Sunday the Green Bay Press Gazette, Lot 1. On the front page, Jesse Lynn, the reporter. Jeff, if you remember meeting Jesse during the preseason game, talked about tailgating in Green Bay, and he wrote a nice article. We made the front page, but under the fold is where my name appears in the article. And I just wanted to throw a couple of comments out there on the article, if you don't mind. Jesse notes in his article of do's and don'ts, do follow your eyes, your nose, and your ears. But he opens up right away by reminding everyone that Lambeau's Lot 1 was once dubbed by the Press Gazette veteran reporter Richard Ryman as the center of the tailgating universe. And it's something that you cannot miss. And then I get quoted in the Press Gazette in this article that goes through the USA Today. It's in the Press Gazette, it's in the Post Crescent, it was in the Journal Sentinel. And it says what I say to a lot of people: it's like adult trick-or-treating. And that is exactly what it is. And he got my quote just correct there. Go around, see what catches your eye. He also reminds people to be early. I indicated to him that, yeah, the parking lot opens at 8 o'clock, but Scott, who really is the person responsible for putting this Lot 1 tailgate party together, he's there at 5 a.m. on a noon game to make sure he's the first in line. Now, he has a pass to get into Lot 1, but that Lot 1 spot is not reserved. So he is the first one in line to make sure we get that prime spot. We like being right up in the corner by the Oneida Gate steps. Some other notes about the tailgate party. He indicated in Lot 1 what looked to be an ambulance converted into a tailgating setup with rotating stage lights above the back doors looked lonely away from the caravan huddled. Now, they are over on the side. They do have fun over there, but because of their size, they're not allowed to park anywhere else. They have to go over into their own little corner, if you will. My friend John Isley, who is part of the tailgate party, and he cooks a mean burger. Let me tell you this. He gets quoted in there as well, talking about the brats that he made. But along with that, the big thing that John does for the last 3 seasons is he has been maintaining a safe space, if you will, where, yes, the Packer player wives and girlfriends come and hang out at Lot 1 as well. And Jesse even made note of 4 of them coming over to do a shot ski with us as well. But if you will, Jeff, give me the old Paul Harvey, page 2. Page 2. Jesse reminds people to drink responsibly. He does say that Packer fans were ranked the 6th rudest among NFL fan bases, according to a survey conducted by the sports gambling site A Gamble of just 1,200 participants who regularly watch NFL. And the reason there is drinking too much. I'm going to disagree with that. I don't think we're rude at all. And in fact, later in the article, Jesse says one of the don'ts that I even told him is don't put down the other team. We want this to be a welcoming environment. We want people who are first timers to Green Bay, regardless of the team that they're rooting for, to be there at Lambeau Field. We want them to remember this experience on game day as a positive experience. We have a reputation to uphold in Green Bay as tailgaters and as fans in what is that hallowed ground. So yeah, I think he does a good job correcting it later, because I do say, hey, there shouldn't be any making fun of the other team. And we're all about making sure everybody's having a good time. And that is to me, one of the big key takeaways of the article. So thank you, Jesse Lynn of USA Today and the Green Bay Press Gazette, for being out there, talking to me, talking to Scott, and just enjoying your day. Point of the article is come on out with an open mind, ready to go, and have a great time tailgating in Green Bay.
John was overly modest there because it was like a 12 to 14 paragraph article. And I think John was quoted in like 9 or 10 of those different paragraphs. We'll put images of the article online so you can read the whole thing if you don't subscribe to the Press Gazette. But John was really the star of the article after the just concept of tailgating. And it was great to have John telling people how things are done in Green Bay. And this is a article that will be an all-time great article about tailgating in Green Bay. And John, as the representative, is a perfect person to do so.
Hey, thanks, Neil. I was happy to do it.
Excellent. An excellent way to memorialize a wonderful tailgating party.
But it was a great weekend overall. The first weekend of the season, opening weekend. The NFL and the Packers like to do a number of events, but it's just the festive atmosphere that makes it so good. There was a Counting Crows concert that was on Saturday night that was free outside of Lambeau Field. I did not go to that, but I was around the Stadium District a lot on Saturday. And the atmosphere at the Stadium View on Saturday night was spectacular. Sometimes it can be very up or down, and especially in recent years, it's not been as exciting on Saturday night before games. And it absolutely was going sort of like peak years for excitement at the Stadium View the night before. So people were really excited. And I think you could feel that not just in lot 1, but in all of the parking lots that are around Lambeau Field. Most people can't park in lot 1. That takes a special pass. But all of the places where other people tailgate, you could feel the excitement in the atmosphere. And it was really fun to be out there.
I don't even park in lot 1 myself because, I'm cheap, Neil. So I go and find free street parking a block or two away. I was on Thorndale this time, so it was pretty good. But Sunday morning, Neil, it's not just the tailgating, but the venues around Lambeau Field, they don't change their events. One of them in particular, the Green Bay Distillery, is a big fan of Arsenal soccer, and they've made a commitment to showing these games. And the Green Bay Armory, this fan club, these guys are out there and they're going to the distillery. You were part of it. I got to pop in. You guys had a great game. And the nice thing is that match is done by 10 a.m. so they can still come over and tailgate with us as well before going into the game.
The match on Sunday morning was Arsenal against Tottenham Hotspur. This is our biggest rivalry. It's called the North London Derby. And we had about 25 or 30 people who were there watching the match. And it was kind of crazy. The distillery was set up for everyone that was ready to pregame as far as the Packers were concerned. But the biggest group by far was the Green Bay Armory and fans from Indianapolis who actually came as well. There were 6 fans from Indianapolis who also cheered on Arsenal at that match. And there is a new soccer bar in Green Bay at the old McSwiggins, but
it's just not close enough.
But yeah, well, for a game, that's obviously not useful. But more importantly, for Arsenal fans, we've established what our space is for our team. And if you're not a fan of the English Premier League yet, go and watch in a collective experience because it's like watching football. I mean, it is football. It's just the other football. And it is also a blast to experience, but it's better when you do it collectively with other people. And we had a good time before heading out to our tailgates afterward.
Certainly a good appreciation for the enthusiasm of the Premier League fans. And when my friend Dave and I walked into Distillery, you and Tyler were very much engaged, as well as everybody, in the match on the TV. I was able to sneak up behind Tyler and I just kind of whispered in his ear, "Hey, what do we think of Tottenham?" And he appropriately, Neil,
shit.
What do we think of shit?
Tottenham. Thank you.
Yes. So I learned that. And then the other thing that was funny about it, Neil, so I missed the second half of the match, but then after the match is over, Tyler, Alex, some of the guys come over by lot 1 and they start tailgating. And Tyler says, "Oh yeah, we won one." He goes, "We won 1-0. And I looked at it, I said, "You mean 1-0? And he goes, "Oh, you speak the language." He was very excited that I was like, it's not that hard, Tyler, but thank you for the enthusiastic response. So yes, he was very excited that I said 1-0 and he and Alex celebrated that. And they had fun as always. I don't know if Tyler's ever not had fun. So that's a good experience for him as well.
The other tailgate that John and I both attended was the Twitter tailgate that was occurring outside of Bradenitsky Field. So there's a group of people who are from all over the country, met via Twitter, and they had a tailgate party of, I don't know, something like 30 people. And they were, a lot of those people were around that all weekend. I talked to a number of those people after the game, also at the Stadium View. And it's just great seeing people come together to cheer on the Packers and to take their fandom, no matter how they arrived at it, and enjoy this great team.
Yeah, people, like you said, come from all over. There's Texas fans, the 2 that I talked to from Los Angeles. Well, actually, one Los Angeles, one San Diego. The guy who looks like Aaron Rodgers is in Stillwater right now, Jeff, in Minnesota. He came from Stillwater just for the tailgating. He said that as soon as the tailgate party was over, he was leaving. He had to get back to Stillwater. So he only listened to the game on the radio because he had a 4-hour drive or so roughly ahead of him. But yeah, again, the Packer fandom, and with the technology of social media, here's a group of people that they realize through their online interactions, they are very like-minded. And they talk to each other about the team, about their interests, and they just say, let's all get together on a specific game. And the courage of these people to just say, yeah, let's do it. I'm going to go meet a whole bunch of new people. And they do. And we walked over there to meet them as well. And yeah, just fun people, great Packer fans. But it's true everywhere you walk around Lambeau Field on game day. Great Packer fans and people coming from everywhere.
Let's hope the fun from Lambeau travels to Nashville.
And that's right, Jeff. This is the week of the GBC Podcast road trip. We are going to Nashville, Tennessee. You and I are driving down. Neil's flying over, but we are ready to get into Nashville for the Packers Titans week 3. In addition to the game, which should be a fun event to go to, Nashville is a great city. There is a Lambeau in Nashville pep rally. It is going to be Saturday. It says 6 p.m. It is at the Nashville Underground, 105 Broadway in Nashville. Interestingly, the doors open at 10 a.m. Pre-rally festivities at 4 p.m. The program is at 6 p.m. If you want more information, check out Packers Everywhere online, because there is information on how to sign up so that you can be part of the door prizes, so that you can get in. It is a first come, first serve kind of event. We went to one similar to that in Denver, and it was spectacular. The one that we did in Cincinnati was kind of an impromptu one. We found out about it late, but we got to meet Antonio Freeman, which was awesome. So we'll see what is in store for us as we go to Nashville this weekend. In lieu of that, Neil, you've been down there. The bars are plenty, lots of neon down in Nashville as well.
John, I hate to tell you, there's going to be a lot of country music too, but it's going to be a lot of music overall. It's a fun city. There are so many people who are living in Nashville who are trying to make their names as music stars, and a lot of them will be in cover bands just to pay the bills, but also there will be people doing original music. But it's also party central as far as the Midwest is concerned, and lots of bachelorette parties, but people that just go there to have a good time. There are a lot of these country music bars that are big name country stars, and people just like going there, having a good time, going to a rooftop bar overlooking the lights of Broadway. People are there to have fun. People aren't there for their business travel. They're there in order to have a good time. I'm sure we're also going to have a good time there.
Not only have a good time, but meet other Packer fans as well.
It seems like this is a game that fans are traveling well to. I think Nashville certainly is a city that Wisconsinites like to go to. We talked about that. I think it's indicative that the ticket prices are not dropping like we thought they would. They're certainly not dropping like they did for the home opener on Sunday, which was a shame that, those tickets were dropping just because Jordan Love wasn't going to play. It was still a season opener. It was still a great day to be in Green Bay. Temperature could probably have some effect on that. If there are people that don't want to sit out in the heat, a last minute might be selling some tickets. So we're still standing by. We have this trip planned. We don't have tickets yet. That's the best part. We are really going on the edge of our seats on this one, Neil.
Yeah, we're playing the statistics. It's always going to be good.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, we're located right near Broadway. We're 3 or 4 blocks away from Broadway. If you happen to be traveling, please contact us via Twitter or any other social media, because we definitely would like to have a good time with other Packers fans while we're there.
Do we need to talk about the game itself?
I guess we should, shouldn't we? The Titans are 0-2. They're a desperate team is one way that you could look at them. The other way to look at them is that this game is going to be a 24-17 game, since they lost both of their first 2 games by that exact score to the Bears and to the Jets. And what the Titans are dealing with is very similar to how Indianapolis is addressing Anthony Richardson, and that Will Levis is trying to establish himself, but he's definitely still going through very much growing pains. And in that first game where they lost to the Bears, he only had 127 passing yards on 32 passing attempts, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and a fumble that he lost. And that theme followed for his game against the Jets. He made it up to 192 yards, only had 1 interception, but also had a fumble. And then the biggest thing about Will Levis is that he is taking a lot of pressure and going down a lot. He's been sacked 7 times already this year. He is facing a 53% pressure rate, which is by far the highest pressure rate in the NFL. Our front 4 have got to go to work and really put that pressure on Levis. They've got to take him down. They've also got to make him feel that heat and make those mistakes.
Well, if Jordan Love doesn't play this game, this is going to be sort of 2.0, second week in a row where the defense has to step up and dictate if this team is going to go far or not.
And it's interesting how Green Bay has effectively become Nashville North, right? We have the quarterback, Malik Willis. We have the kicker, Braden Arverson, and we have their former offensive coordinator as our head coach in Matt LaFleur. So a homecoming for these guys to get into Nashville and play. So they have, what is nice about that, Jeff, is some insight into the Titans team. And hopefully that will help the defense going into this game on Sunday.
Yeah, if Will Levis is able to be rattled as he has the first couple games, he threw a pick 6 against Chicago, then yeah, I think that bodes really, really well for the defensive line. And obviously we've got 5 interceptions already through 2 games. Yeah, let's get 2 or 3 more.
Another interesting fact with that, Jeff, league-wide, no rookie quarterback has thrown a touchdown pass yet through 2 games. Let's at least hold Will Levis from throwing a touchdown pass. I don't care about the rest of the league on Sunday. We just got to take care of Will Levis in Nashville.
The only thing that's really significantly different, though, about the Titans compared to the Colts is that the Titans have a stouter defense. And I think week 2 is a little bit early to be going on DVOA numbers, but Tennessee is actually ranked 9th in the NFL by DVOA on defense, 23rd overall. Packers are actually 3rd in the league in DVOA on offense. That was surprising to me, given some of the powerhouse teams we've seen. But again, that's looking at context. And the way DVOA ranks things is that when we were building up the lead, those plays matter a lot more than when we're holding a lead and we've got a 2-score lead. And so it's a situation where I think it is early to look at those numbers. But for what it's worth, the Titans did hold Caleb Williams under 100 yards. Now, you may say, well, that's not such a big deal. They also held Aaron Rodgers under 200 yards, and he was doing a lot of very short passing against them. So I don't think we can count on being able to shred their defense in quite the same way. But I think also that Matt LaFleur is going to have some tricks up his sleeve, and he's going to have a Malik Willis who has an additional week of experience in this offense. Matt LaFleur now has confidence that Malik Willis is going to be doing some things, and we're going to see some new wrinkles, and that should hopefully translate well.
Well, with the hot temperatures that are forecast, hopefully keeping our offense on sustained drives will help, just like last weekend.
And let's keep our offensive linemen hydrated throughout the week so that they aren't trying to force it all in themselves on Sunday as well. In addition to just Malik being ready to play on Sunday too, is I think the receivers continuing to do what they did on Sunday, and that is to really run sharp routes, to see a lot of good misdirection in the backfield, to see, again, that offensive line control the line of scrimmage. Like I said, I'm not worried about Malik's intelligence in picking up the playbook. I think that as long as that team runs a precision offense like they did on Sunday and they run it well, the only thing I'm worried about is maybe his arm strength a little bit. I know he can throw it downfield, but he doesn't always necessarily throw with accuracy. So to at least get some receivers open to build up his confidence and to stay playing well on the offensive side. But I think, like you alluded to at first, Jeff, this has got to be the defense's day in Nashville.
Maybe this is time also, though, for some burner routes by Christian Watson, really where we get some real separation where it doesn't have to be 100% accurate when he gets it downfield. We got to take advantage of the fact that we have all of these receivers who can do different things.
One injury update, we did mention Jordan Morgan left the game with a shoulder injury. We don't have an update on Jordan Morgan, but Packers running back Marshawn Lloyd has been placed on injured reserve. He had a sprained ankle, but he also has had a hip and other injuries throughout the preseason. So he's kind of been on the bench. He's been struggling a little bit to stay healthy. This one's going to put him on the block, so to speak, for 4 weeks. They did sign running back Chris Brooks from the practice squad to the active roster. So that'll put Emmanuel Wilson up to the number 2 spot behind Josh Jacobs.
And he's certainly been performing at that position. Can we finish this segment on some happier news?
Yeah.
Let's look at the DVOA numbers for the Asshats. The Packers are 23rd. We're not in the bottom 8 for a nice change. The Titans are, and the Titans are.
Yes, there you go. 23. We got out of the bottom 8. All right.
But on top of it, the Titans are 32nd. They have the worst asshats in the NFL through 2 weeks, of course, which is a huge caveat. But we have the better asshats going into this game.
Right.
That's encouraging. Right.
And remember, they kept Nick Folk as their kicker over Braden Arverson. And I would, if the two guys are equal, go with the younger guy. The fact that Arverson is in Green Bay, I've said it a couple of weeks now. I think we're going to be talking about this down the road, how this guy fell into our lap, and he is going to be a stud in Green Bay. And I think that he's going to be excited to be kicking in Nashville on Sunday as well. And before we wrap it up, taking a quick look at just the NFC North, the Packers, the Bears, the Lions are 1-1. Jeff, what the hell is going on in Minnesota, and how insufferable would Vikings fans be if they were 2-0 with J.J. McCarthy at quarterback?
Well, since J.J. McCarthy got hurt, we don't know that, but they're drinking the Kool-Aid. They're drinking the Kool-Aid.
And they are 2-0, and we don't care about the rest of the league, right, Neil? If it's not the Packers, we don't care.
We'll care about them eventually, but only once we figure out which teams are actually our rivals this year.
Yeah, or unless we're playing them that week. So we're looking forward to heading down to Nashville this week. And with that, gentlemen, final thoughts.
We're obviously happy with the results in week 2, but there were a lot of things that were left on the table and things that we're going to need to clean up as a team, both from Philadelphia and from the game against the Colts. So the biggest thing that we have to work on is that we really didn't stop Jonathan Taylor, and we're lucky that the Colts decided not to run him that much. He had 12 rushes for over 100 yards in that game, and we've had this continuing problem with stopping the run. And guess what? If they've got a Will Levis who may be prone to errors, I would think the smart bet for them would be to try to run the ball against this defense. And the other thing is penalties. So we had 6 penalties for 50 yards. Not great, but they also declined 2 penalties that happened when we either had a long third down that we didn't convert or we didn't convert on third down. So it was really 8 penalties and some penalties on some pretty critical plays. So we need to be better about not shooting ourselves in the foot. But then we've also got to look at what we're doing with that defense as far as the line is concerned. This is a team that is, this Titans team is very prone to pressure. We don't have a lot of sacks so far this year. Now is the time to go after that pressure. And we need to see that front four really shine the way that we have wanted them to and the way we talked about in the preview. The other thing is that we're learning something about what the team is. And we talked about what sort of formations are the Packers going to play. Against the Colts, the Packers actually had 23 different plays in which they went with 2 tight end formations. So it looks like we're going to see more of that. Maybe that was partly because of the run, but they were certainly getting Luke Musgrave involved. And we actually only had 9 plays with 3 linebackers on the field. So we're definitely playing a 4-2-5 formation. And this may be a component of why we're a little bit less stout against the run. And looking at how that may change against the Titans is going to tell us about how the Jeff Hafley defense is going to evolve based on results. Having said that, I'm really looking forward to have a great time in Nashville. I'm looking forward to the evolution of this team over the course of the season. Go Pack, go.
As we talked about, it's kind of a homecoming for some of the players as there's deep connections with Nashville. I've never been to Nashville. Looking forward to going there for the first time, enjoying everything or whatever it has to offer. And most importantly, going to the game, seeing how, like Neil said, how this team is progressing, how they're going to deal with the heat. Again, we keep bringing up the heat, but you know what? That's really a thing here. And I'm hoping that they can overcome it, start the year at 2-1, get a road win. Go Pack, go.
I was in Nashville once as a child, Jeff, when the now defunct amusement park Opryland USA was still operational. But regardless of that, I'm looking forward to a great road trip, Jeff, some good music and some good driving on our way down. Looking to hang out with Neil, and our friend Dan is going to come over and join us, as well as any Packer fans that we meet along the way Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Looking for just a beautiful weekend in Nashville and another Packer victory on the road against the Tennessee Titans. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit subscribe and leave a comment. Find the GBC Podcast at Green Bay Chat. That's all one word. We are on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. On Facebook, it's the GBC Podcast Green Bay Chat. And may you fully appreciate the magnitude of your impending good fortune. Thanks for joining us.
Good night.
Good night.